a WBKB News public affairs program. Insights deals with the issues affecting those within the community, as well as Northeast Michigan and the state. And now, insights into Northeast Michigan.
Welcome to Insights. I'm Sherry Stewart. This week we're taking a look at some of the shocking details behind a plot to kidnap Governor Whitmer. To date, 14 men have been arrested and charged with a plot that state and federal officials say was to kidnap the governor and overthrow several state governments. We'll be speaking today with a Lansing trial attorney who can break down some of those allegations. And later in the broadcast, we'll be speaking with a media professor who has conducted extensive research on extremist ideology. Well, joining me to kick off the conversation is Jamie White. He is a trial attorney out of Lansing, Michigan. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Sherry.
And sir, I know that you have litigated some very high-profile cases. In this particular case, 14 defendants now charged in this case. And the charges are very severe if proven. So can you give us some insight into how either side would go about litigating this case?
Right. So I guess first, Sherry, you've accurately described what the status of things are as they stand today. There was another individual charge bringing the individual defendants up to 14 now. It was 13 prior. We do expect that there will be more. Typically with these sorts of crimes, we call it the iceberg theory, where this is the tip of the iceberg. So for every individual charge, there probably are another 10 to 20 individuals who are either directly or remotely involved in this caper in some way, shape, or form. And we're seeing that play out now in that, another individual has been charged. These groups or these sorts of actors tend to be cowards. So it's very likely that law enforcement will, and to your question about litigating, I think that what we're going to see, Sherry, is that law enforcement and the U.S. Attorney and the Attorney General for the state of Michigan are going to ask for cooperation from all or some of these defendants for the purpose of identifying other individuals who are up to no good and trying to spoil any future efforts to commit these sorts of acts. So over the course of time, we'll see that, and that will play into defense strategy. I suspect that some of the defendants will aggressively seek to cooperate to mitigate their own harm and their own exposure. Some may be approached and be more reluctant to participate, but I think that will be a piece of it. I think that taking away the idea that we're just going to cut a deal and cooperate, the primary defense strategy, I suspect, is going to be that these individuals never actually went far enough to be indicted for a conspiracy. 6 of these men are charged with conspiracy to kidnap the governor and other charges by the U.S. government. In order to sustain those charges, the government has to show that they took a substantial step to actually commit these acts, not, sitting in a basement, no matter how bizarre it is, sitting in a basement, playing video games and talking about harming the governor is not a crime. But when you take acts to further that goal, that's when it becomes a crime. I believe that the government has evidence to support that based on what's been publicly disclosed, but that, I suspect, will be the primary defense strategy.
And that was going to be my question. I believe I've seen in one of a media report that this could have been perceived as just some tough talk. I mean, many people are displeased with some of the direction with regard to COVID-19 and how that's been handled, and businesses have had to shut down for safety measures and things of that nature. So obviously it's not a crime to be displeased with elected officials. That happens all the time. But I guess in this particular case, taking that step and even proving or showing that people really had ill intent, that perhaps is the deal breaker there.
Yeah, Sherry, that is exactly it. And here these individuals, these men, at least as it's been alleged, they raised money, they tested explosives, they surveilled the governor's vacation home. And I'm living in Michigan and familiar with that area. and knowing the governor, who's a friend of mine, how they even found that home is very troubling. But again, it goes to, what were the affirmative acts? So, somebody went out, found her home, and actually surveilled it, at least on 2 occasions, as has been reported. So we'll see. But I think that, all popular opinion is that these men did take the affirmative steps to actually execute this conspiracy to kidnap the governor, and not only kidnap the governor, but they in fact intended to try her for treason, move her out of the state. And what I would say to you, Sherry, is that, what's been reported to me is that, there was discussions about hanging her, so I suspect these men are going to be found culpable for the purpose of the probable cause. They'll be held to trial. Some will cooperate, some won't, and accountability will fall where it falls.
And I know, Jamie, as you were starting out talking, you said this was pretty much like a tip of the iceberg type deal. In these particular cases, and it seems like it just, the layers keep unfolding. So in your mind, how are these cases really difficult to prosecute? Because there's so many, I guess, moving parts, or should you say layers, and you have to apparently have patience too, because this didn't just unfold overnight. Apparently, they have been under surveillance or investigation for some time, the folks that are being charged in this.
Yeah, they are difficult to prosecute. So domestic terrorism is a very difficult situation for law enforcement because, we are afforded the Bill of Rights, so right. Spying and this sort of thing that we could do with foreign nationals, is not allowed here, but for the involvement of the confidential informant here, I think that this could have been a very different conversation that we're having right now. I'm very grateful that that person or persons, it appears, came forward. And I guess it's worth saying that while I certainly don't prescribe to any of these militia groups, they're to label them all in the same genre, I don't think is fair. It's an interesting group of folks that hold all sorts of unique points of view, but really, when you get granular, the minority really prescribes to these violent prescriptions. And again, I think we've seen this play out in this case in that, at least one person, if not 2, heard we're going to kidnap the governor, and that was just a bridge too far for them. Mm-hmm. And they approached the FBI and ultimately became a confidential informant. So, as we continue to battle with these ideologies and try to confine them and avoid harm, I think it's important that we embrace the people who don't take that bridge too far and bring them into the camp of, how do we fix this?
Well, we're out of time. Unfortunately now, Jamie, we've got to move on, but we really do thank you for spending time with us today to break down, the ins and outs of how this particular case might be litigated as it continue to move forward. So we really appreciate your time today.
Anytime, Sherry. Thank you for having me.
Insights will return after these messages.